Hi, I'm John Tesh. If I were to ask you the question, what is your dream in life, what would you say? Everybody has one. It doesn't matter who we are. It doesn't matter how much money we have or where we were born. Something in the heart of every person yearns to do the one thing they were created for. Unfortunately, some of us fail to realize our dreams, but just because we haven't achieved our dream doesn't mean we don't have one. During this program, my good friend Dr. Bruce Wilkinson, the author of the New York Times #1 bestseller, The Prayer of Jabez, will help you understand how to achieve your dream. There is a treasure that awaits each of us on our journey through life who dares to follow the voice of the dream giver. Now here's Bruce.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and welcome to The Dream Giver, an exciting series which, if you don't watch out, will catch you by surprise. Catch you by so much surprise that if you don't watch out, the dream that's deep inside of your heart may just spring out in a way you never expected. I'm so glad that each one of you here in the audience is here, and that you're going to be a part of this series, and that this series will be shown literally around the world to all different ages of people. But right now, I want to talk to you about your personal dream. That private part of your life that's down deep inside of your heart, that if you had freedom and could do anything you wanted, if you had all the money in the world and could do exactly what you wanted, what would you do? What would be that thing that you always said when you're in the conversation with a close friend or a relative, I would love to be doing this? That's the dream. That's that part that's inside of you. And I don't know if you believe you have a dream, or if you believe everybody has a dream, or only some people have a dream. I was having lunch with a Hollywood producer when I was writing the book on The Dream Giver. And during lunch, I was trying to convince him that everybody had a dream. And no matter what I did, I wasn't able to convince him that everybody had a dream. And I started wondering, how could I convince this Hollywood producer that this is true? And a waitress came up to take our order at the side of the table, and I thought to myself, here's my moment. So I turned to her and I said, are you doing what you've always dreamt you would be doing at this point in your life? Maybe you are, and that would be terrific, but maybe you're not. What did you want to be doing? And she said, I wanted to be a nurse. My mother's a nurse, my aunt's a nurse, my sister's a nurse, and I grew up playing, not doctors, but I grew up playing nurses. And she said, I thought I'd be a nurse by now, but it's too late. I said, what happened? Well, I was in school and I was studying to be a nurse, and then I fell in love. And before I knew, we got married, and then we had some kids, and I had to drop out of school. And now here I am with 2 children, working 2 jobs, and I'll never be a nurse. And I looked at my Hollywood producer friend, and he was kind of with me for a minute, and I said, let me ask you kind of a strange question. Do you believe that God wants you to be a nurse? And you could tell she hadn't quite thought of it like that, and she looked away for a minute, and she said, I think probably he does. I said, well, if God wants you to be a nurse, and you want to be a nurse, then why aren't you a nurse? She said, well, I just don't have enough money for a babysitter to go back to school. I said, if somebody came along and babysat your children, would you go back to school and would you be a nurse? She said, oh yeah, I'd go back to school at a heartbeat. And I looked across the table, took a deep breath, and then said to her, so, who is in your life who would babysit your children for free? And this lady, I've never been able to find the word. It's kind of a mixture of a scream and a yell and a sigh and a tear. And she said, it's my mother. I said, it's your mother? I thought she's a nurse. Well, she was a nurse, but she retired 2 weeks ago, and now she's bored stiff, and she'd probably pay me to watch the kids. And then she started to cry right there at the end of the table and said, I'm going to be a nurse. And I looked across the table at my Hollywood producer friend, and his eyes were this big, and he was shaking his head like this. And I looked back up at the lady, and at that same time, on the booth behind me, somebody else came and sat down, and she turned around just like this to see who it was, and it turned out to be a close friend. And before we knew what happened, she stopped taking our order, slid in on the same side as this lady and said, "You'll never guess what happened. I'm going to be a nurse." Wait a minute now. What about you? What about the dream inside of your heart? The one that you always wished you could be doing? If I had 100 people in the line here and we went down the row and said to them, are you doing the dream that you wish you would be doing and you could be doing? How many of the 100 would say, no, just can't find my way to do it? How many would say, I'm not able to do it out of 100? You think the majority are doing their dream? What percentage do you think? 60% are doing it or aren't doing it? Are not doing it. What do you think? Think of all your friends and your family. Are the majority of them doing their dream or not? No. How many would say the majority of my friends, at least, aren't doing the dream that's in their heart? Let me see your hands. So what do you think? How many would have to sit down out of 100? How many would say more than 50? More than 70? More than 80? Ooh, more than 85? More than 90? More than 100? Well, just think what we're saying. We're saying that people who have a longing in their heart to do something wonderful, that which kind of pulls them in the direction, they're not able to do it for one reason or another. Now, what about you? Are you doing the dream? Just today, this morning, I talked to one person and I said to her, so what is your dream? And she got real quiet and she backed up a little bit. She said, well, I don't really talk about it. It's very private. Why is that? Why do we respond so personally when we talk about our dream? Why is it when you can come over to a person, even somebody you don't know, and you begin to talk to them about their dream, and if you touch their dream in their heart, what will happen to them? They'll become emotional right on the spot. I've watched big men just get all teary-eyed, and women as well. Why is that? Why do we become so emotional when somebody just touches it? Because it's so important to us, isn't it? It's so important to us, and we try to keep it out of the way. But if somebody comes along and touches it and then said, would you please tell me about this dream that's in your heart? I've watched people choke up so much they couldn't speak. And half the people that I have a conversation like that say this to me at the end. Say, you know what? I've never told anybody about this dream before. Now, why is it? Of all the things we should be talking about with each other, it should be the deepest dream in our heart, because we're supposed to accomplish this dream, not run away from the dream. Now, when you begin to think about this, could it be that if maybe you're one of the people that say, you know, I wish I could be doing my dream, but I really can't, and I don't know how to get there, what would happen if you found a kind of a roadmap from this moment, and let's say your dream, just for sake of conversation, is this microphone. Let's put it right here. Your dream is to do this. And you're way back over here, and your dream is deep inside of your heart, and you're saying, I wish I could get there, but I can't get there. What happens if you found out the method to get there? Because most people think that between here and the dream is kind of this dark, murky, foggy, unpredictable, quicksandy, meandering way that may or may not get you to the dream. What would happen, though, if there was a set of stages that you went through and that you actually could figure out where you are on your dream? Because everybody, believe it or not, has a dream, and everybody goes through the exact same stages on the way to accomplishing their dream. Now just think about this for a moment. At the end of this first session, in a few moments, I'm going to ask you if you know where you are on this dream landscape. So let's start it for a minute. Let's come over here. Let's say this is the beginning, that I am, the first stage is I have a dream in my heart. And whether or not I face it and I deal with it. If I keep stuffing it out of the way and I don't deal with it, then I'm in control of the dream and I don't want to deal with it. But if you surface your dream and say, okay, what do I really wish I could be doing? And what happens next? Because the dream, although it exists in your heart, is really about doing that over there, isn't it? It's in here, but it's about doing that. Well, when you and your mind begin to move in this direction, you hit something. Because it's, let's say this is right here is where I live my life, and I'm comfortable here. I know about this family, I know about my job, I know how to get to work. I basically know about my life. I'm comfortable here. The problem with dreams are they're not in my comfort zone. They're out there, and I can't reach it. You can't reach it either. So in the middle of my comfort zone, excuse me about getting into your comfort zone. Excuse me for a minute, let's turn my back on you. This thing kind of pulls on you, you know? It doesn't announce it's going to come after you. It doesn't send you an email and say, I'm coming about 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon and I'm going to get after you because you should be doing this. It just kind of, and it doesn't push you, it pulls on you. It's kind of a longing. And your mind kind of starts thinking about going in this direction. And what happens is, as you get to the edge of your comfort zone, you're at the edge of your comfort zone, which means I'm not comfortable there. I've never been there before. I'm afraid of this. And before you know it, you say, I don't like this feeling. I'm going back to the middle of my comfort zone. How many have ever done that? You know what? It comes into you again. And you come out here and you get a little anxious and you come to the edge of your comfort zone. You feel that same fear. And you think to yourself, if this was the right dream, I wouldn't feel afraid. Happens again. You say, maybe that's the right dream, but it's not time, because we believe that if we have the right dream, we won't feel afraid. You know what? That is 100% backwards. Everyone comes to the edge of their comfort zone and feels the same feeling of fear. And we're going to talk about that later in the series. But this fear is what drives people to come back and say, I can't do that. I mean, I'm scared to death. When you ask people, what caused you not to do your dream? 8 out of 10 people, this is it. They didn't know that everybody feels afraid. And that for you to get out of here to the next step toward your dream, you have to go through the wall of fear. And we'll teach you all about that. But then you come to the edge of that comfort zone, the edge of that comfort zone. And at the edge of that comfort zone, something is a border, I guess you'd call it, around your comfort zone. Here it is right here. This is my border. And around the border of my comfort zone are some other people. Let's say I work here. These guys, comfort zone, lays on top of mine. It overlaps. Now, if he's my boss and we work close, it overlaps quite a bit. Let's say this is my family. Then there's another group of people on this side of my comfort zone. Let's say this is my neighborhood or whatever you want it to be, my church maybe on this side. A dream can go in any direction, can it? If it starts going in this direction and I kind of walk out and it shakes my comfort zone a little bit, guess what happens as the comfort zone shakes here? It messes with your comfort zone. And it just shakes it. And you say, whoa! What are you talking about? You can't do that. Where are you going to get the money for that, you fool? Get back. Get back. How many have ever heard something like that? Why is that? Because, watch this now, we're all the same. Although you and I think we're different than everybody because nobody else has that comfort zone fear. Come on now, everybody has it, and everybody has this other thing. I call this stage number 3, the problem at the border, the borderland. Now, if this dream is just a little bit from here to here, it only shakes you a little bit. But if it's a big one and it's way out there, you get really frustrated. And you come against me and I say to myself, because I'm fragile at this moment, I haven't even started it yet. I'm just thinking about it. So you're probably right. I'm thinking crazy. That's Reason number 2 why people don't do their dream. You haven't even, you haven't even gone anywhere. Once you understand that's a price tag you have to pay, wait till we talk about the 3 types of people you meet in Borderland. And then what happens next? How many are tracking with me? How many are tracking with me? So, maybe you're seeing yourself already. Stage 1, dream. Stage 2, comfort zone. Stage 3, Borderland. Stage 1? Stage 1, dreams. Stage 2, comfort zone. Stage 3, Borderland. When you finally have the courage and you break through, you're expecting to somehow be way over here. I don't know how we do this, but we all do that. Because that was hard. That was hard to break through. And our expectations are, whew, I'm going to go after this thing. You know what I mean? You know what I mean about this? Do you know what I mean about this?
Yes, sir.
It doesn't work that way, does it?
No, sir.
But nobody says a memo about what's coming. Because what's coming, when you finally step past the comfort zone, it kind of slopes down into this, up to that point you've been looking over there. You haven't gone like this. And when you start going down this slope and you get to the bottom, it's not very nice down here. In fact, it's a little bit like a mini desert. And the more you try to find the path to get over to here, you can't find the path. And you find yourself frustrated to death. Why can't I get there? And you know you're smart enough to get there. Yes, you do. Because that's why you're here. And no matter what you do, you're stuck. I call this the graveyard. Because nobody expects this to happen. And if it happens, they thought maybe for 2 days, and then it'd be over. You feel after a while, as the weeks go by, and maybe the months go by, and maybe even a little bit longer than that, this is going to be a wonderful insight to your life. Because when you get into this, you feel everything is a waste. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of energy. It's flat out just a waste. And in this period of time, you can't break through. You can't. And it doesn't make sense. If you're a religious person, you're praying a lot. God, don't you remember I'm doing this, for you? And does God respond? God doesn't even respond. So how do you feel? In time, you get pretty ticked off. Because it wasn't easy getting there, was it? In fact, people feel betrayed in here. Until you find out the reason why this is going on. I've watched people have a complete turnaround when I talk about wasteland. But that's not for now. But you know enough to know what I'm talking about. Stage 1 is dreams. Stage 2 is? Stage 3 is? Stage? Wasteland. There's an end to wasteland. You're hoping for a long time that this is the end, but it doesn't end suddenly. It dawns on you that you can feel the green. You're not in the desert anymore, and you feel an invitation. This is the only one of the 7 stages that's optional. You're not going to do your dream unless you deal with it. You're not going to do your dream unless you deal with your comfort zone. I promise you. Nobody likes messing with their comfort zone. The borders are real for you. And unless it's a little dream, if it's a regular big-sized dream, you're in the wasteland. You can't determine not to. You can't say, I'm not going there. It won't work. But this is the one place where there's a kind of I don't know how you say this, maybe a T in the road. You come to here and you have a choice. It's an invitation. And it's an invitation from the dream giver himself, saying, come on up here with me for a minute. Because you're shot. You are. You're emotionally fatigued. You're spiritually fatigued. And if you don't watch out, you'll go right and pass right by that invitation, and you'll fight this next one. And because this is so hard and you come into it so fatigued, you won't ever get to the dream. But this invitation is to a place I call sanctuary. It's a place of safety. It's a place of renewal. It's a place of wholeness. And it's a place in which you're invited to three places. You're invited to a waterfall with a pool next to it. And you can say that's enough and go back down to the valley that's here. But you're invited up to go further. And you go up to some big redwood sequoia trees. And there's a shining light that's unlike any other light you've ever seen in the middle of these trees, and you're invited to come to the light. And some amazing things happen there. If you process through the light, you'll be invited up to the top, to a summit, to a high point. I would be standing on top of here. And at this summit, you see the dream more clearly and with more fervor, and your heart is wrapped all around this dream when you're on the summit. And then somebody asks you a question you do not want to deal with, but it's key. We'll talk about that later on. After these three invitations, come to the waters, come to the light, come to the summit, you come down off of this hill, this mountain, and you come into the valley where there are giants. I mean, big giants. These are the reasons, way back over here, that you were scared to death of going in that direction. See, the wasteland's inside. It's what's happening to you. But those giants, they're real. They're real giants. And they do make you afraid. And these are the hindrances that you and I have to fight through, or else we can't get to the dream. This giant, for instance, an early giant in everybody's life is there's no money to do the dream. And you get to this place and where's the money? And you look in your pockets and there's only a few dollars here and there, and you think, since I've got this far, the money will come. And you ask your best friend, how about helping? Are you kidding me? This is not going to happen. How many have ever had difficulties with the giant of money in your dream? Why? Is that a universal? Wait till we teach you about how to defeat that giant. Because, by the way, there is a way. These are a number of giants, different sizes. When you finally get through the giants, you finally get to the dream. This is what you always wanted to be doing. And now you're finally doing it. I call this the land of promise. You're finally in the place. You're finally doing what you've always wanted to be doing. And you are at a critical moment that most people miss. Because if you don't watch out, that will be the end of the dream. When in reality, the dream is as much as you want. Because you know what happens? All this land has become your new comfort zone. Oh, I'm hearing, oh no, that's right. It's comfortable here. Although it was hard getting here, you now are comfortable. And guess where the dream is? It's never where you are. It's out there now. And you have the same fears. And if you move even closer, you have the same borderland problems. Maybe you've seen a friend that you haven't seen in a long time. And that person is light years ahead of you, and you sit there and say, how did that happen? This had happened. You were afraid back here, and you said no, and they didn't say no. Because you both were asked. The dream giver asked everybody. I was in South Africa having dinner with a new CEO, new president of one of the largest companies in Africa, and he and I were meeting for the first time, and we were talking. And after a few pleasantries, I said to him, so, tell me about your dream for the company. Because now I know the dreams are so important to everyone. And he began to talk about his dreams. And then, knowing this, I was able to stand back and see this. And I said, are you feeling this way? And he said, we just met. How did you know I felt that way? And I said, are you thinking these thoughts? He had a plate with 2 lobsters on it. It was a big company. He took the plate and he moved it aside and he said, wait a minute. I know you wrote that book, The Prayer of Jabez, but how did you know this? I said, well, do you want to know what's going to come next? He said, you know what's going to come next? Yes, sir, I do. He took out his notebook out of this pocket. He opened it. He moved. He said, tell me, this is why we're having dinner. And by the time we were done, he knew exactly where he was. He knew what has to come next. He knew what has to occur for him to go to the next stage. Once you understand this, you can help not only yourself, but you can help so many people. Now, some of us in this room are doing more than one dream. Which means this. You could be sitting right here with one of them because you don't want to deal with it. You could be scared to death of another one. You could be at the borderland with another one. You could be wandering forever in wasteland. You could be on the summit of the sanctuary. You could be fighting your second giant, or you could be in the land of promise. You could be in 2 or 3 places at the same time. And do you know what? You will be. Because this is how the dream works. It is an invitation from the dream giver for you to pursue what's taking place. Now, it is my hope that this series will open your heart and your mind in a way that you've never quite thought about life this way before. Because you are a person who has a dream in your heart. And no matter how many times it's been beat up, no matter how many times somebody has tried to kill it, no matter how many times you run away, the truth of it is that dream is meant to come true. And this course, this series, is going to give you a whole series of tools that you can use and insights, and that's how it's going to be. You're going to see yourself breaking through time after time, and you're going to say, oh, now I understand what's happening. And your spouse, if you're married, and your children. But I want to say something to you for a moment. One time I was being interviewed by a reporter, and I asked her at the end, I said, will you pray the prayer of Jabez for 30 days and write an article about what happened? And if nothing happens, will you tell everybody in the world nothing happened? But if it does, will you write the article? She said, there's no way I'm praying the prayer of Jabez. I said, why not? She said, because I'm married, I have 3 children, I have a full-time job, I have a husband. I feel like my life is a plate that's piled this high with stuff. And if one more bean drops on the plate, my whole life is going to come apart. She says, I'm not going to pray the prayer of Jabez. And I said to her, you know, I don't think God's in the business of dropping beans. But he is in the business of taking the size of your plate and going like this. And you know, that's what happens to men and women and young people who don't run away from their dream. Your capacity grows. Your ability to not only do that dream, but at the end say, oh, this was a ride of my life. Let's do another one. And you'll be one of those people who in your trail are so many people whose whole lives have been transformed because you did the dream giver put in your heart. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Have you ever been through a midlife crisis? I have 3 or 4 times. I've been in midlife a long time. Well, welcome to the Dream Giver. And I want to talk about your dream. And I want to share a personal story about mine. About 10 or 11, 12 years ago now, my wife and I went on a vacation to a particular place. And every year we would take a vacation, just the two of us together. And we have a tradition in our vacations as a couple. In the mornings we do what we would like to do as individuals. In the afternoon we come together and spend the afternoon and the evening together. And on the way down to the beach where we were staying in a friend's condominium, Darlene Marie said to me, "So what are you going to do in the mornings?" And I said, "I'm going to look at a piece of paper." She said, You're going to do what?" "I'm going to look at a piece of paper." "For how long?" "From 8 o'clock in the morning till the middle of the afternoon." "Why are you looking at a piece of paper? You've never done that before." I said, "Well, I feel this need to clarify a bit." And I had a piece of paper just like this. And I put across the top my name, my wife's name, our 3 children, my parents' names, and my wife's parents' names. And I put the years down this column right here. And I drew a line when I thought I would be a grandfather, when I thought I would die, when I thought my parents would pass away. And I then looked at this sheet of paper for 6 hours a day for 5 days straight. There's a verse in the Bible that says, "Lord, teach us to number our days so we can have a heart of wisdom." And I sensed at that time in my life a real need for wisdom. And I looked at my life, which was this long, on that sheet of paper for 6 hours a day, and asked myself the question, why do I have this amount of time? And I'm going to trade my life for something. And what actually happened in that period of time is I kept going in further and further and further inside of my heart to ask the question, what is that dream? Because you know, whether or not you've thought about it before, your dream is the best North Star of which way to go in your whole life. And if you don't watch out as you live your life, if you don't have a dream that you're going to, which direction do you go? You go whatever direction somebody pushes you or pulls you, and your destiny is not being achieved. And you're squandering who you are. And this session, we're going to talk about your dream in particular, and how to think about it, and how to deal with it. And as I think about the dream, I think about the fact that it is something that's inside of you that you had nothing to do with. You did not determine what you look like. You didn't determine your eyes. You didn't determine if you're good at math or you're poor at math. You didn't determine what you're passionate about. And you really didn't determine what was in your heart that you'd love to do. And no matter where you travel in the world, you can talk to a 7-year-old child in the middle of a wealthy family or in the middle of a squatter camp, and you say to them, what do you want to be when you grow up? Every single child will start smiling, and they'll tell you, here's what I've heard in Africa. I want to be the president. I want to go to the moon. I want to be a doctor. I want to be Mandela. Who put those dreams in there? Did the parents come along and say, sweetheart, here's the dream I want you to have in your heart? Mm-mm. And what is it in a person's heart then that makes, where did that come from? Because you had nothing to do with it, did you? You didn't come along and say, let's invent a dream. A dream was inside of you. And I believe that dream, could it be that the dream giver has a A super dream that goes all the way in time that way and all the way in the time this way. And then he has part of his dream, this part right here, from point A to point B, that he wants to be done. I want this to have happened. And then with this hand, in a sense, he shapes and he creates a person just to do this part of his dream. He gives him strengths, or gives her strengths and talents and passions, and puts this person at a certain time in history and a certain place in the world, and then takes this and puts it inside of this person's heart as a seed. And this is what pulls you and pulls me in the direction of our destiny. And when I step all the way back as far as I can, as we talked about this being the dream last time we were together, if I step all the way back and say, give me a perspective on that, summarize everything about the dream to a word or two, I like the words, a dream is a sacred destiny. It's what you are called to do. It is a destiny that you didn't form. But the shocking part about it is, you can decide what to do with the destiny you do have. You can decide, I'm not going to do it. And you'll miss your destiny. And I've talked to, and maybe you have too, so many people as they get older and they start to look back over their shoulders more and they say, I missed what I was here to do. There's a sadness inside of a person like that that is profound. And I want you to know something. If you were to take two yous for a minute, and you're here, and you're here, and you both have the same dream, and this person says, I'm scared to death and I can't do it, and puts it away, and this person says, I'm scared to death but I'm going anyway, and this you pursues the dream, and we just meet you, both of you at the same moment, and we look in your eyes, and we hear how you talk. Would there be much of a difference? It'd be a huge difference. See, the person who loses a dream, they don't really lose it, you stuff it. You push it down. I don't want to deal with it. But why? Because it makes me feel uncomfortable when I get to the edge of my comfort zone. The dream makes me feel uncomfortable. If I don't want to feel uncomfortable, I'll go back and... I've watched people decide, I'm going to follow your dream, and the next day you see them, they're a different person. They are a different person because they're following their dream. Now I want to talk to you about your dreams because there's some pitfalls here. One of the pitfalls I see all the time is that dreams, to be right, must be realistic and sensible. Every single dream I've ever heard is impossible and is anything but sensible. How many of you feel a little bit awkward in telling somebody else the full size of your dream? Why is that? Did you sit down one day and say, Tom, did you sit down one day and say, you know what? I need to increase the size of my dream. You don't, do you? You have nothing to do with the size of your dream. But I've yet to find one human being anywhere in the world, and I've been all over the world asking questions, helping people. I've yet to find one person, by the time you touch the dream and you just open the door to that part of their heart and they share their dream, it's way out here. And if you say to this person, how much do you like your dream? Everybody says, I hate my dream. Everybody loves their dream. It's universal, isn't it? It's too big, it's overwhelming, and I wish I could do it, but I don't think I can. So if you're waiting to say the right dream is the one that's sensible, forget it. Forget it. Second misconception that I find all the time is that people think the dream is secondary. It's not really that important, and it's not really strategic. But here's a person, okay, and you have freedom of choice. You came here today. You could have decided not to come. You could decide at this very moment to stand up and walk out of here, and nobody would stop you. We would boo you, but we wouldn't stop you. I can get up and I can do whatever I want with this. Why? I have freedom of choice. I'm not sitting here. That's also a choice I'm making. But we have freedom of choice. And if you don't follow a dream, what are you pursuing? It's strategic. If your dream is all the way over here, and you clarify it a little bit, like we talked, let's say this is your dream. Let's say this, I got some grandkids. I love grandkids. I have 5. Never thought I'd have 5 grandkids. I'm too young for this. Nobody's ever said that to me, except I keep telling myself. Let's say this is the dream. It's this bright and shiny dream. There it is. It's always that way, isn't it? And when you're over here, your heart, not your mind. Dreams don't come in minds. They come in hearts. It comes up to your mind and then you think about it. It doesn't start with your thoughts. It starts with your heart. And it goes like this. And it pulls you, right? Right. Now watch this. Let's say that I say to myself, I'm not following the dream. Okay. Well then, what are you going to do? Watch it. I don't know. We'll see what comes. When you or I postpone, nail down in a closet the dream, we squander who we are. Because every strength you have is to accomplish this. So never again think to yourself it has to be sensible. It won't be sensible, will it? It just won't be sensible. And for people who require it to be sensible, they all gather at the borderland to tell you why it can't be possible to be their dream. Well, let me see if I can't give you a couple principles about this. When you're here, do you know how to get there? Or do you say, I don't know how to get there? When a person has a dream, are they typically saying, I know what's going to happen between here and there? You're shaking your head no. Do you think they know how? How does it make you feel when you don't know how and somebody says, so that's your dream, how are you going to do it? What do you do then? You stop talking about it. That's exactly right. That's why we don't want to talk about it. Because when somebody says, so that's your dream, how are you going to possibly do that? Everything in you says, don't ask that question. Because we don't know how to do that. So watch this. If you wait until you know how, you won't. You won't. Last week, we were in New York City on this tour for the Dream Giver, and I've been speaking at different places, and I was asked to speak at a very unique place I'll never forget. I was asked to speak in New York City on the top floor of this great big tall building, downtown New York, at a cigar club. I didn't know there still was such a thing as a cigar club. I felt just like a man when I walked in there. And there was about 70 men who wanted to meet off to the side in a separate room, and they wanted me to talk to them about their dream. So the MC of the evening was really dynamic. I mean, I didn't want to talk. I thought to myself, let this guy loose. He is really fabulous. Well, my table that they asked me to sit at was right here. And I was seated right here. And the MC was seated right here. We're talking, and I say to him, so, what's your dream? What do you mean? What do you really want to be doing? Well, I want my own TV show. What do you mean a TV show? I want my own talk show. I said, you would be absolutely stunning on TV. I mean, I'd watch you. You're really good. So, are you on TV? No, I'm not on TV. How long have you had this dream? 15 years. 15 years. Why haven't you done it? I don't have the money. You don't have the money for what? To make a pilot. To make a pilot of the show so the network could see it. Have you committed to do the dream? How can you commit to doing the dream? I don't have the money. Oh, are you getting it how we think? We say, when I know how to go from here to there, then I'll commit to the dream. I want you to know something. If you wait to do that, you will age ungracefully. Because the dream is very, very unique. It requires you to surrender to the dream before you know how to do it. It says, embrace me. You know it's supposed to happen. It's in your heart. Don't wait for how. Just say yes. So I said to this man, so why don't you just decide to do it? He said, how on earth could I just decide to do it? I said, well, you can make up your mind. And I said to him, why don't you have this pilot done by the end of this year and get on TV by January? He said, how? Don't say the how word. And he said, you mean by this time, the entire table stopped talking? And it was, some of them knew him. Most of them did. And they're nodding their heads like this. And I said, so will you commit? I was asking to surrender. Because you know what? He hadn't surrendered to the dream. He was over the dream rather than the dream pulling him. And he said to me, you mean just commit like this? I said, yes, sir, commit like this. And he knew that I wasn't going to let him alone. And he said, he began to hyperventilate a little bit and said, okay. I said, now, you make a pilot this year? Yes. I said, now watch this. Who around the table is going to fund his pilot? And the man on the table said, I'll fund his pilot. Yes! It was wonderful. Now, what am I trying to say? Many of you are stalled right here because it's still conditional. I will embrace it when I know how and when I have the money, and not until then, because only a fool commits to do something you don't know how. Not a fool, a person who does the dreams. That's what you do. Now, I want to talk about a dream again. We have this boxes of blocks here because I was thinking about our grandsons, Darlene Marie and my grandsons, and I was thinking to myself, here's the dream. I just had somebody buy this box of blocks, and I said, let's find a way to represent it. If I had Jonathan or Eric or Andrew or Johnny, if I had them there, and Quobus, I'll tell you about his name maybe later in the... This is the dream. It's inside your heart. And this is your comfort zone right here, this round thing that you don't ever want to get outside of. And the dream kind of wants to pull you open up this comfort zone so you can escape the bondage of the comfort zone and move toward your dream. But the second is a threat that you may leave this. The people who live around here can smell it. A dreamer's about ready to burst free. And you don't know how they do this. You think the grandkids will be following it? And so they come around here and they tell you all the reasons in the world why you... And then a big one that you really respect says, that is a dumb idea. And you say, oh, you're probably right. I think I'd be better teaching grandsons than I'd be teaching you today. So, this is dream, comfort zone, borderland. And then, last time we talked about this really tough place. It has high walls. And it's called wasteland. I guess you kind of walk your way down and you get stuck inside of this box right there. And no matter how hard you try, you even lose sight of this inside of wasteland because you wander so long. But eventually the person who's in charge of wasteland says, okay, you're done and you are free. And then you can either keep on going straight or you're invited to a different place. And this place is up on a hill. Actually, it's a magnificent hill. And as you come on up, you are invited to a pool of water that something occurs. And if you decide to keep going up, you'll come to another area which is a light that is very, very unique. That something inside of you is supposed to happen. And then you come up to this ledge, the summit, the top. Next to this dream, it's the second highest thing. And at this point, everything in you really wants this dream. And somebody approaches you here about this. That is a crisis. And then between you and the dream are these big giants with these big heads here who overwhelm you. But this dream, what's really at the root of a dream? If you were to dig up your dream, and I were to keep on digging and digging and digging and digging until I found your dream, and then I looked underneath the surface at what's the core of the dream. What's the core of that thing over there? Because a dream, if you really keep thinking about it, is about people. It's about a person. And this dream, it starts out that I'm the person. And I want my needs met. That's how we all start. And the dream becomes something we use and abuse to get what we want. Been there? We all have. And if you grow a little bit more, eventually you begin to notice there's more than me in the room. And we begin to move from a selfish dream to a shared dream. And I care about you a little bit. Not too much yet, but some. And I move to stage number 2 of the dream. Now, watch the thread. I'm not going to tell you the thread, but I mentioned it here, and I mentioned it here. There's a thread to everybody's dream. As time goes on, it may be shared, but I may break through something else and say, you know what? You really have a need that I can help with. But it's going to take me to sacrifice for me to help you. It's very different than a shared one. This is more about you than it is about us. And there's a huge breakthrough in a human being's life when they value somebody else's need more than their own. Now, most people who accomplish significant things get to stage 3, don't they? What's the thread that's through all these stages of your dream? Needs. Oh, who said that? Well, that's exactly right. Say it again.
Needs.
Needs. Whose needs?
Yours.
My needs initially, and then our needs, and then...
Their needs.
Oh, which means then, don't let me forget this one. That means that a dream has got a root of a need. Whoa. And if you constantly think about your need, you're going to abuse the dream. You will. We all know people like this. They twist their capabilities, they twist their talents, and it's all me, 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 me. And they use people. Where the dream is meant to be as you grow older and mature, it's more to be us, and then finally you. But in it is the need. Oh, it's a need. Every dream is about a need. So a dream is a picture of a solution. That's a solution. A dream is a solution. A dream is a picture of a solution. It's a picture of how did this need get fixed? How did the need get met? And in a sense, a dream is an implementation of a solution. Therefore, ask yourself the question, okay, think about your dream just for a minute. Whose need is it all about? If you're having trouble thinking, what's somebody else's need that I'm trying to meet, then you've not opened up to the real dream. Which means, as you and I live our normal lives, we will, if our eyes open up some, we can meet a person for the first time and look and sense and find a need, have a mini dream, which is his need met, and then go right to that dream. Those are the truly great people. They care enough about you that they're constantly looking in your eyes and they're asking you questions. So how you doing? And really? And what are they doing? They're reaching in for the need. A dream is about a need, isn't it? It's about a solution to a need. Therefore, let's say you're struggling and you're saying, I don't have a dream. Okay, then look around. There's lots of needs all over the place. Now listen carefully. Which need turns your button? Which need do you say, I'd love to help solve a need? That's where your dream is at. See, needs are, you only attract a certain kind of needs. I mean, not the mini things. I mean, a direction of your life. You're attracted to a certain kind of need because somebody made you to be attracted to that need. You don't say, I'm going to be attracted. You're going to say, I don't want to do that. I'd love to do that. Why do you love to do that? Because your talents, your gifts, your passions, your desires, you want to do that. And that is based upon a need. So you don't invent this, you just follow. Where do you want to go? What do you love to do? What are you good at? What do people say? Boy, you're really good at this. Okay, take the this and say, now where's the need? Because that's how it works. This making sense? Yeah. So, you got to surrender, you got to deal with a solution. And principle number 3. Is that the dream is expensive and requires sacrifice. That's what we don't see in other people. We look at other people who are doing their dream, and it appears like it's so easy for them. And we look at our own lives and we say, man, is it hard for me? You know what the truth of it is? It's hard for everyone. And the price tag and going from here to over here is really expensive. It's really hard to do. And unless you die to yourself, you'll not pay the price to do the dream. Because here's my need for me, and here's your need over here, and I have to leave that there to come over here. You know, the people that you and I look up to the most throughout history are those people who are very unique. They're not unique people, but they followed a unique pilgrimage in that they went down this road. But if you back away and you say, in all of history, name the people who were the greatest dreamers that accomplished the most significant things, they found this one. They found another one. It wasn't selfish, mine. It wasn't shared, ours. It wasn't just sacrificial, yours. It was sacred. It's his. Ooh. What is your dream? Now watch this. What is your dream about that need? What is your dream about that need? You don't ask the question, what can I do? Wrong question. Right question. What's the dream giver want done about that need? And then you stand up and you go meet the need. It's those people who surrender all the other parts of their dream that go for the heavenly dream. You know, why does the whole world respect Mother Teresa so much? Did she do that? Yep. That? Yeah. This? Yeah. This? Yes. This? They did. She did. And it's those people that every single human being says, that's the apex of being a human being, of caring for other people. So as we conclude this part of the dream, what a precious thing, the dream. It doesn't cause you to reach in. It comes out by itself. But ultimately, I want you to remember this picture. You are a steward of your own dream. You don't invent it. It is placed in your trust. And your dream is sacred. And it's sacred because it involves other human beings and their lives and their needs. Could it be, then, that wherever there's a person in need, there's another person who has the dream to do the need? And if the need is unmet, could it be that a person who's called to do the dream said no? We were shooting a movie, a Hollywood movie in South Africa. The president of Kenya asked me to make a Hollywood movie about this pandemic called AIDS. And he asked me to put the major problems and misconceptions in the movie. And we shot for 60 days, 14 hours a day, about a little Zulu boy whose mother and father died, and his pilgrimage down to Johannesburg and Soweto to try and find his way. One morning when we were shooting the end of the movie, it was extremely cold in Johannesburg. It was so cold you could see your breath. And we put a little tent up at the corner with a heater in it for some of the actors and actresses because it was just freezing. We got there early in the morning. This is emotional to me to tell this story. Across the street, catty corner, were all these police. Turns out that that night, a little orphan boy had froze to death on the corner. And we were shooting a movie about a little orphan boy. And as I sat there, and all of us just about, our hearts erupted in sorrow, and that movie became something it wasn't till that moment. I thought to myself, the dream giver doesn't want a little boy going to bed on a street corner with no food, no clothes, nobody caring for him. And I thought to myself, I remember I was weeping we all were. I said, how could that happen? Now you know. Somebody's dream, God touched that person time after time about that human being right there. And that person said, no, I'm too busy, and that child died. Don't you ever think your dream isn't precious. You have the stewardship of a dream that affects people forever. So make sure you live your dream. Amen. Thank you. Thank you very much. Welcome back to Dream Giver. This is going to be a session that's going to challenge your comfort zone. It's about your comfort zone. If you remember from our series, our dreams are inside of our hearts. And they are a picture of a need that is going to be met by something that we do. But the problem about dreams is they're never connected to what we're doing at this present time. They're always outside of our current experience. And we call this the comfort zone. And that's what this session's all about. This area that you're living in today, perhaps, of where you work, of what you do at work, of your family, of your friends, you're comfortable about, you don't even give it a thought because you're used to it. And our comfort zones have an edge to them. They have a boundary line. And the dream that we have is always outside of the comfort zone. It makes us uncomfortable. Now, I don't know if you've ever thought about it, but you have comfort zones about everything. And so do I. And one of my dreams was to be a person who taught. I love to teach. And that was a dream over there because I found I could help people in talking to them and helping them understand. But the problem was, I had a comfort zone around this thing right here. I'm very comfortable right here. And years ago, I would get almost depressed for 2 weeks before I had to speak. I was so afraid. And I would stand rigid behind this lectern. And I was very safe right here. And my gestures, I mean, a really big point. This is about as far as I could go. It just didn't feel comfortable to make a gesture larger than this. And I realized as I did this, I was making you too comfortable, and I was boring you to death. And I said, I got to get past this, or else I'm never going to get to the dream. And I couldn't do it. And I remember I heard somebody give a speech. And I decided that was the best speech I'd ever heard. And I got a copy of this tape, and I wrote it word for word. And I couldn't wait for a chance to give this speech. It was a deep speech. I mean, it wasn't a surface one. And I finally got my chance. And I was in front of this group of people, and I started giving this other person's speech that was so deep. And as I kept giving it, people in the audience were going like this. And this man who gave the speech had a very unique gesture that, as a freshman in graduate school, I thought was just amazing. He would take his fingers like this, and when he was making a point, he would talk to the point. And I practiced this in the mirror until I could do it. I couldn't do it with both hands, but I could do it with this hand. And when I realized it wasn't going well, I thought to myself, it was at the end of page 1, I started to make the gesture like this, and I was just so profound at the moment doing this. And I looked at my wife for a moment of support. When it was all over, I was totally drenched because it went on and on and on, and I didn't have anything else to say. And I got in the car and I said to my wife, I said, sweetheart, it is over. I'm quitting graduate school. If one thing is for sure, I can't speak. She said, well, one thing is for sure, you can't speak somebody else's speech. Why did you do that? And what is this? So I had to break free of this comfort zone because it's here. It's right here. And I came in one day to a time I had to give a speech with some black tape. And I put a piece of black tape right here. And I put another piece of black tape right over there. And I said to my wife, I said, sweetheart, when the time is ready, you nod your head, and I am going to break free from this comfort zone. So I'm in the middle of speaking, and my wife goes, and my heart began to pound. And I made my move. And I was right here. It was so bad. Because, you just leave this place where you feel comfortable. And I kept telling myself, you can do it, you can do it. And I'm talking, you can do it, I can't do it, you got to do it. And finally, I couldn't. So I stopped talking. I said a couple sentences. I walked back. How many of you can identify with that? Oh, we have comfort zones about everything. And people say to me, you weren't really afraid of speaking. I said, listen, ask any of my relatives. I was scared to death. Why? Comfort zones make you feel comfortable. Comfort zones make you feel comfortable. Therefore, to do the dream, you have to get past your comfort zone. So if I were to say, okay, back away from this whole session on your comfort zone, what's the summary word? It's not a profound word in this section. It's not like your sacred destiny. It is the fact you have to be uncomfortable to follow your dream. That if you don't, you cannot follow your dream. If I didn't break free from this, I would have bored audiences, no matter if I was double it, doing it. Now, here's some pitfalls that happen. Number one, I can remember time after time after time wanting this dream, coming to the edge of it and feeling afraid. And then thinking to myself, I'm the only one who feels afraid. Because nobody ever said they were afraid. So I thought, it's unique to me. And I'm the only one who is afraid. And since I'm the only one who's afraid, because I look at you, and you don't look afraid. You look like this is so easy for you. And I'm saying, I can't do that. I don't understand how they do that. And I'd come to the edge of it again, and I'd feel uncomfortable, and I'd feel afraid, and I'd go back. And I had this 18-lane freeway back and forth, and I couldn't break free because I thought it was unique to me, when the truth of it is universal. It's universal. And if you don't break through this wall of fear that's right here, that's in everybody's life, about everything that you haven't done yet, you'll never be able to follow your dream. The second thing is something that stopped me for years to following my dream. I thought to myself, if I was afraid, it proves that the dream is unacceptable to me. It's the wrong dream. Because I reasoned if I finally got to this edge, I wouldn't feel afraid if it was the right dream. So I kept waiting, back and forth, back and forth. When am I going to feel unafraid? And I reasoned if it was the right dream or the right time, I wouldn't feel afraid, and I kept feeling afraid. Now, what about you? This issue of feeling afraid is real, isn't it? And every time you pursue a dream beyond where you've gone before, you have to fight this issue of feeling, I just can't do it. Now, what exactly is this comfort zone anyway? I mean, what is it? I understand it on the floor, but what is it? It's a defense mechanism that I have and you have. It's to defend something. It's to defend me against my dream. Because the dream comes out, and no! And that's the wall of fear. Where did that wall of fear come from? It came from inside of me. It's a defense from the attack of the dream to get past me to accomplish it. So when you realize this is normal, this is an abnormal, this is an unusual, this is human, that you therefore realize that unless I break through this wall of fear, you'll never be able to accomplish your dream. When's the last time you broke through a wall of fear? About anything. I mean that you were afraid, you didn't want to do it, everything in you was screaming, run away from this, and you decided that you were going to do it and you weren't going to stop. We were just at an island with some friends for a week, and my wife, who is very safe-oriented, she said to me one afternoon, I'm going to go parasailing. I said, you're going to do what? I'm going to go on the back of that boat with the rope, you know, and it pulls this thing and you go 200 feet in the air. I said to her, what are you going to do? What? I'm going to do it. I've been married to you all these years. You're going to do what? Why do you want to do that? Just because I'm afraid of doing it. And I said, oh, sweetheart, you mean you're going to do this just because you're afraid? I said to her, why are you going to do this? She said, because you and I are working on the dream you know I'm supposed to do, and I keep running away from the edge. So I'm going to take something I'm terrified of, and I'm going to break through this wall of fear, and I'm going to do it. And she said, do you want to come? I said, no, I'd faint if I'd watch you go up there. Man, I'm going to tell you. When's the last time you broke through a wall of fear? When's the last time you did something you had no way of believing you could do? Because, my friends, comfort zone gets out in here, and if your vision and dream grows, guess what? You've got another problem here and another one here, and there's no limit to this issue. And I remember years ago, back to the same desire to speak, I was asked to speak in a big arena for the first time. There's 9,000 professional teachers. And up to that point, I'd spoken to maybe 3,000 or 4,000 people. But when I came to this arena in Anaheim, California, it was so big. And I got up to speak, and I started giving my best illustration I have. And there were people up here walking around and talking. And there were people back in the corners talking. And I'm starting to think, this is the best I have. Just think what's going to happen in 10 minutes. And I began to think, what's the matter here? There's three things that could go wrong. Number one, you could have the wrong subject. You could be talking about something that people aren't interested. Well, they were interested in that topic. Number two, maybe they had a problem with me. They didn't have a problem with me. They didn't even know me. Well, then there's only one left, and that's the style in which I delivered my content. It's how I said it. So I'm sitting here doing the best I can with a 3,000 auditorium in an arena. And I think to myself, you have to fix this. Fix it in a hurry. And I thought to myself, who do I know speaks in great big stadiums and arenas? All I could think of at that moment was Billy Graham. And I thought, what does he do? Oh, no. So I said, do what he does. So I took a deep breath and said, and he came down from the mountain. And he said, you must stop at that moment. And I remember looking in the audience, and everybody stopped, and I thought, they're going to all laugh at me. They're going to all laugh at me. And they didn't laugh. And I kept acting like a fool the entire time I talked. Guess what happened? I broke through a comfort zone. Now, wait a minute now. The dream isn't static. It's not to remain one size of a dream. Ask for more, and it will be more. But when it's more, you got to break through this issue of another comfort zone. And I remember going to speak at a stadium years later at the Silver Dome in Detroit for 80,000 men and being terrorized in the tent before I had to go up and speak. I couldn't even see the people at the other end. So, what about you? If I got sick for 2 weeks ahead of time, I did. You have to want the dream enough to break through the fear, or you'll spend the rest of your life linked up in the issue of fear. Now, what do you tell yourself when you're feeling afraid? In other words, your emotions feeling afraid, you're wanting to do it, so your mind gives yourself reasons to go back. For instance, go back to this famous story when God told Moses to speak to Pharaoh. He brought poor Moses right to the edge of the comfort zone. What's his first reaction? Who am I to go speak to Pharaoh? That's reason number one where you feel, I'm unworthy to do this. And over again, I meet people that when you talk to their dream, they feel unworthy. And that's the reason they tell themselves, why I won't break through the wall, a fear that's here. Maybe they go back and say, look what this terrible thing is I did back here, and because I did it, I'm not worthy to do the dream. Or maybe their parents abused them emotionally or whatever other way, and they have a self-view that says, I'm not worthy of doing the dream. I want you to understand something. That's a defense mechanism. Stop. Don't tell yourself that. Nobody's perfect, and everybody you ever meet will have something or numerous things in their lives that shouldn't have happened and it happened. You don't have to be perfect to do the dream, but you must follow the dream. Therefore, don't allow yourself. I remember one lady was saying to me, I'm not worthy to do the dream. And I looked at her and I said, And she kept talking. She said, I'm just not worthy to the dream. I said, ma'am, you sure aren't. And she, what do you mean I'm not? I said, you're not worthy and I'm not worthy. And if you keep on waiting to feel worthy, you won't do the dream. So if you find yourself saying, who am I to go do this? Throw it away. Second thing that Moses did is he said, Lord, I stuttered a little bit. And I'm not a good speaker. And by the way, you made me that way. And so we think of our limitations right here, don't we? We say, who am I? I'm unworthy and I'm unable to go do that. And the truth of it is, you are. You're unable to do that. I was under that point. I was unable to do that until I forced myself. And then I taught college kids and graduate students, and I didn't tell them about what happened to me, and I put a black piece of tape on the floor when they came in that door. And they all walked over the black tape, and then I asked them to come on up and speak, and I said, during the speak, go touch the black tape. And they said, we can't touch the black tape. And I said, do you realize you walked over the black tape? It's not the issue of standing here. It's an issue that says, in this thing that I do, this is the zone I'm comfortable in. So what is the reason that you tell yourself you can't do the dream? That you're unable to do it? Well, you are. You've never done it before. But if you allow yourself to say, that's the reason why I won't go past my comfort zone, you will never pursue the dream. There's one other thing that Moses did. Do you remember what happened? God said, don't worry about this, I'll take care of this. And Moses said, no, send somebody else. And he made a decision of the will that says, my lack of comfort is strong enough for me to say to you, no. That's a serious decision of being unwilling to follow your dream. And that happens all the time, where people know they're supposed to, know they're called to do it, see the importance of it, but they value something more than the dream. Do you know what it is? Their own comfort. I want to feel comfortable rather than I want to meet this need and accomplish this dream. And there's this competition then between what I want personally and what you need. And therefore, the more I began to understand this, there was this competition between my desire for security, my desire for safety, my desire to be in the fetal position on the inside of this pillow right here, and your need. And that ultimately, it was a test of selfishness, wasn't it? Oh, it's what I want rather than what you need. And the last thing I want to say to you is that it's unlimited. That there is no limit to how far this can go. You can take your comfort zone, and if you break free from it, you can go out to a new comfort zone. So as I began to walk over here and feel comfortable, then I wanted to try and make gestures that were larger than my little square. So I wrote up a little chart, and it showed how far I would make my hands go this way, how far up, how far down, would I go this way, and would I go this way. And every time I did that, I sweat until I'm comfortable and moving it. Then I decided I'm going to leave this and I'm going to go right to where the people are. Again, what happened? What's this person going to do? You don't know. This issue of unlimited means there's no limit to what you can do. Now just think about that for a minute. The dream that's in your heart, if you think the comfort zone border is the limits of your dream, you're sorely mistaken. This is only where you've allowed there to be a wall set up. And until you come to the point in which you say, I'm no longer afraid of being afraid, you won't break free. Now, what is it that you've been afraid of so far? What is it in your life that you know you're supposed to move past and you've not been willing to do? Can you think of it? How many of you can think of it? What's in your mind? What's in the back of your mind?
Leadership with other adults.
Leadership with other adults, of you leading?
Yes.
And you're afraid of doing it? And you're afraid because, this is great, everybody's with you. You're breaking through a comfort zone right now. You're on international television, look at this. And you're afraid what will happen?
That I would not be as knowledgeable as I needed to be in that situation.
So then, I'm not qualified. It's not, I'm unworthy, it's I'm unqualified. What percentage of people feel unqualified when they're at the comfort zone threshold? Everybody. If you therefore wait till you feel qualified, will you ever break free? No. So that means when you're leading, how will you feel?
Unqualified.
That's right. Now, what you want to do is hold up a sign that says, I'm unqualified. Don't let anybody know you're unqualified except the dream giver. And fake it. Well, wait a minute. The gestures were faking it. What does that mean, faking it? It means you're doing something, you're forcing yourself to do that's not natural. So you're faking as if it's natural. It's not natural, but that's how it becomes natural. So what kind of leader, what are you supposed to lead? Do you have no in particular?
Well, I'm forced into that position in my job. Right?
You're forced in it.
I don't have that choice.
And is it becoming any easier?
Yes, because I have no options.
Well, that's great. Thank you. So, are you qualified?
No.
Is it okay with you, now hold on to this one. This has helped me. Is it okay with you that you aren't qualified?
Well, no, because it's always uncomfortable.
Yeah, but wait a minute. That's a major question. You have to sort through this and say to yourself, it's okay with me that I feel afraid. It's okay with me. It's okay with me that I feel unworthy. I'm going to do this anyway. It's okay with me that I feel unqualified. In other words, I am going to accept the fact that the only way I'll get qualified is by doing it. There's no other path to the dream, none, except I got to go through the comfort zone. Now, some of the rest of you had some hands up. You had your hands up. What is it with you that's hard?
Getting to the black tape.
Getting to the black tape. Let me give you this. What do you mean, getting to the black tape? What was the black tape for you?
It's stepping out of your comfort zone when you're speaking to other people in a group or...
Were you uncomfortable?
Yes.
Why?
First time you feel unqualified. You wonder, not me, I'm not good at this.
Well, how did you do it? I mean, you're doing fine right now. How did you do this?
You're my inspiration.
But how did you do this?
You make a choice. Am I going to hide behind my wall or am I going to break through it?
Did you want to hide behind the wall?
Yes.
Did you talk to your husband about this?
Yes.
What did he say?
It's time to break through the wall.
So he wasn't a bad person at the borderland.
No, thank goodness.
He was opposite for you?
Mm-hmm.
So when you made this decision, did the fear go away?
No.
Yes, it did.
Oh, yes, it did.
No! That was so good. So, in other words, if I'm trying to break through my comfort zone, I should realize that the fear is not going to go away. Now, didn't it ever go away?
Not yet, but hopefully it will when I
Is
get
it less
there.
fearful for you?
Yes, I'm holding the microphone still.
Yes, you are. So if I'm sitting here and I'm hearing this and I'm thinking to myself, she looks awfully poised. She wasn't really afraid. She's just saying that. Were you really afraid?
Yes.
What would you say to a person who said, I am too afraid to break through? Let's say one of your girlfriends. What would you say to one of your girlfriends who said, I can't believe you did this. How'd you do this? I want to do this, but I'm too afraid. What would you say to them?
It's worth it. It's worth it to take the first step and to plow forward and don't look back.
Why did you say it's worth it?
Because you feel a freedom when you do break through.
You feel a freedom. Do you feel that your dream has enlarged as you've done this?
Definitely.
Has there ever been a time then before that you said, I'm caving into fear. I'm not going to do it? I did. Mm-hmm. Did you ever say, it's too hard, I don't want to do that?
Yes, but I think it doesn't let you go. A week later or a month later, you'll come up to the same wall and you'll have to make the same choice. It's just easier to hold the microphone and go straight through it.
Let's give her a hand. That's very, very good. Very, very good. I came to a aha in my life that I want to challenge you about. When I came to understand that, I made a decision. I realized that even though I've been breaking through comfort zones for a long time, I still get scared to death when the new one's here. And one day, I made a decision, and I'm going to ask you to consider making the same decision. I made a comfort zone commitment that is unconditional. No conditions. No escape clauses. And here's the decision that I made. I said, I will never again run away from the comfort zone. Never again. I don't care what it is. I will never run away from it again. When I made that decision, within a week I was severely tested by that same decision. In fact, I was speaking at a public meeting. I was off the platform, and it was a large group of professionals, and I was challenging them to break through a major area in their organization. At that moment, I was standing right at the edge of the comfort zone, trembling. But I wasn't going back, and I wasn't going forward. I was stuck. And I was challenging them, and as I said, you need to do this, my heart said to me, how can you challenge them without going forward? And it was so heavy that I stopped speaking. And my friend over here, Chuck Colson, was sitting right here. I was speaking for him to his organization. And Chuck said, "You're in trouble, aren't you?" I said, "Yes, Chuck, I am." Because I couldn't move. And he said, "Can I help you?" I said, "I wish you could." And I just said, "Excuse me for a minute. I'm stuck at my own comfort zone. I haven't run away, but I didn't decide to go forward." And I was scared to death. And I made a decision on the spot and said out loud, "I hereby commit, for me, I am breaking through this comfort zone." And at break time, I went outside underneath a huge oak tree, took out my cell phone, and made the call that my voice trembled on the telephone. Since that time, I've never again run away or trembled at the comfort zone. I come to it. This is fear. Fear's not the end of the world. Okay, I'm going to break through my comfort zone, and I do. Now just imagine if you made that commitment. But never again. Never again. Never again will you run away from a comfort zone. I've made very few decisions in my life that have had more of a dramatic impact than that decision. Because all dreams are on the other side of the comfort zone. And if you wait to see how afraid you are when you come there, you won't break through your wall of fear either. I found, though, that the belief that says the wall of fear will disappear if I just stay here long enough doesn't happen. It doesn't go away. Well, then what do you do when you're feeling it all over you? You have to take something you don't have. You don't wait until it disappears or supernaturally is taken away, because it doesn't happen. You take something you don't have. It's called courage. You take courage, you lift this foot up, and you force yourself through that wall of fear. Courage doesn't mean there's no fear. It means in the middle of feeling afraid, you make a decision. Courage is a decision. Like John Wayne said, courage means getting back on the horse. Courage means I take one step more than I want to take. It doesn't mean you're not going to be afraid, because you are going to be afraid, but you take courage. Here's how I do it. I consciously think I'm taking courage, I'm putting it right here. I make up my mind, I will choose to go through it, and I do whatever it is. And in a short order, the fear has gone away. The fear exists on this side of the wall, not on this side of the wall. And eventually you look back and you'll say, how on earth could I have been so afraid? So as we come to the conclusion of comfort zone, my question is the same one that I asked myself. I'm asking you. It's a big decision. Will you stop being afraid of being afraid? And will you value the stewardship of your dream so much that you're willing to go through the wall of fear, no matter when it shows up or how big it is? Therefore, as we come to the conclusion, will you, in a sense, make the comfort zone unconditional commitment, I will go through the wall of fear? Now, what about you? Who wants to do that? Make that decision slowly. Do you make that commitment? Tell me what you're committing.
I'm committing to go through the wall of fear.
You're committing to walk through the wall of fear. Have you run away from wall of fears before? Anybody else? Woo! You give me your word?
Yes, I do.
You give me your word? That's good. Somebody else who never expected ever to make that commitment. You didn't. Because you like your comfort zone?
Yeah, and I'm afraid of what's on the other side.
Your dream's on the other side. And you're going to like that dream. Anybody else who's been afraid and now you're joining the ranks of the committed? Do you hereby give me your word that you will not run away again?
I give you my word that I will not run away again.
Man, I believe you. What's your name?
Alan.
Now, Alan, do you know where you're going to face that next time?
Probably tomorrow.
I mean, do you know in your mind how it's going to be for you?
Just speaking in groups. Is,
Come on up here for a minute, would you?
this is a wall of fear for me. Yes, it is.
Now, tell me, where are you from?
I'm from Virginia Beach.
You're from Virginia Beach, and you have an audience of one.
No, I have an audience.
Doesn't he look poised? Yes. Doesn't he look like he's qualified? Yes. Doesn't he look like he's worthy? Yes. He looks distinguished with the gray hair. So what did you want to tell this audience about comfort zone? Because it's your moment now.
Well, I've been in a comfort zone for a very long time. 40...
That's all right, that's all right.
40 some odd years in a comfort zone. And my comfort zone is to hide in the seats and not get in front of the people and speak my heart, speak what God has put in there and what goes on inside of me. My comfort zone has been myself, being in myself.
You know, I respect you a lot. Your heart came out in front of everyone. Didn't you enjoy that? Hey, thanks. You want to say anything else?
I just want to say...
He won't give me back the mic.
I just want to say thank you to Mr. Wilkinson for his book, The Prayer of Jabez, and for his book, Secrets of the Vine. I want to thank him for being here this evening, for the night that he's made possible for all of us and for myself. I thank him for being a man of God, a man who's willing to put himself on the line for others, for people. And so I want to be like Bruce Wilkinson.
Thank you very much. Hey, you're amazing, really. I don't know about you, but when that happens, I want to stand and shout, don't you? Well, what about you? What about you? What is stopping you from following the dream? Take that F-E-A-R and put the dream in this hand and say, which one is going to rule my life? Which one am I going to choose? And break through it. Come on, break through it. And someday when I see you, I want you to walk up and say, hey, before I heard that series, I was a slave of the comfort zone. But now it's a long way in my past. Follow your dream and break through your comfort zone.